sharing the screen. So welcome to our 13th workshop on social and human aspects and business process management. Selmin and I would like to welcome you to our workshop. As you can see, there is yes, long tradition. So our workshop has three main goals. That's first social business process management, so the connection of social mechanisms and business process management. It's also about social business, how we can use social software for supporting business processes. And yeah, also the human aspects of business process management. So we would like to discuss new opportunities that are provided by social software, because it's another means for introducing contributions for content. We think that there is a new kind of business process management on the horizon with a stronger involvement of the individuals. And of course, there are business processes that are implemented within social software systems. So there is a permanent website, BPMS2'20, where you can see about the history, and we also introduced the Zotero group. So the organizers of this workshop are Selmin, who unfortunately cannot participate because she's yeah, taking exams today at Paris. Selmin and I work together in a number of areas. For example, you know about BPMS, part of CAISI. And we also created a workshop on, or a mini track on social information systems on Higgs. The notifications will be sent out, 2 days, yes. Okay. BPMS2 has, yes, the second oldest history on the BPM conference. There's only one workshop older than ours. So we traveled with BPM around the world, and we hope to continue. Perhaps we achieve the 15 or even the 20 years. Okay. So, okay. In the beginning, there are two papers that, yes, also attracted a number of yeah, citations, well beyond 100 citations. So there are two journal articles about our thinkings that were implemented starting from the workshops BPMS2 on 2008 and 2009, and that have been published at Software Process Improvement Practice Journal. Okay, so as I said, there's quite a number of citations, and you can also see a little bit of the spirit of our workshop. So there's an alphabetic order of contributors, and yes, and the same applies for this paper. Okay, of course, the workshop is only possible if there is a certain number of support, and we wish to thank all the authors for having shared their work with us. We would also thank the members of the BPMS2 program committee, and of course the workshop organizers of the BPM conference. Thank you, Flavia, for helping us with the organization of the workshop. Okay, here short look at the program committee of this year. So you find it also on the website. Okay, about the post proceedings. The information on it I will send soon after the workshop, as yeah, nearly every year we have a two-part publication procedure. The intention is to allow to capture new ideas during the workshop and to yeah, let these ideas captured during the work flow into the papers. So the final Springer proceedings, they will be created after the workshop. If you have any questions on it, please feel free to ask either today or later on. Okay, so here's our schedule for today. First, I will speak a little bit about BPMS2, about the steps, and then we have, yes, 4 papers. And at the end, there will be some closing remarks and a discussion. And as every year, we will also like to hear from you some ideas, what you think would be beneficial, what could be good ideas to continue BPMS2 also in the first time around 2021. Okay, so I would like first to start with a short introductory round. So if you like, please, yes, tell us a little bit about you and your interest in the workshop. So who wants to start? Pedro, how about you?
Can you hear me?
Yes,
can you hear me?
hear you.
Yeah. Yes. I'm a teacher in public school in Lisbon, Portugal, and I work with BPM during classes to master and post-graduation students. And I am orienting some students in the thesis. And so I propose that to reaching the site of the conference, I proposed a reading of a thesis of a student from 2018, a study in a non-profit organization about the processes. It was very interesting because he discovered many things we do using the BPM approach, only designing. And now I am orienting a student that is comparing 3 BPMS. So I would like to hear your ideas, and it is interesting to know what you are doing also, and to understand how we can in the future do together or something. I'm going to prepare something to submit to the next conference of BPM.
Okay, thank you very much.
Welcome.
Yeah, Johannes or Egon, would you like to say something about you? Yes, we all can see. So please start. Can you hear me? Flavia? I'm not muted.
Go out and get in the conference. Sometimes it solves.
Allowed to unmute your microphone, but let me do it.
I can mute mine.
Okay.
So,
yeah, Johannes.
Now I'm unmuted. Thank you. First of all, I'm Johannes Tenschert. I'm a postdoc at the Friedrich-Alexander University and CEO at my startup based on my thesis. Both in research and in my company, I introduce social software characteristics into adaptive case management and also BPM. And that's why I'm happy to attend for the third time now, I guess, this workshop.
Yes, thank you very much, Johannes. I'm very happy to see you again, and yeah, hope we can continue. Okay, Egon, would you like to say something?
Hello, my name is Egon Lifteniger. I work as a researcher in business informatics in the Fachhochschule Campus O2, the University of Applied Science in Graz, Austria. Mm-hmm. And I previously worked as researcher at Eindhoven University of Technology in the information systems group there at the School of Industrial Engineering, where I did my PhD there. So, and there I started with this research about the service dominant logic and how it influenced the business models and business process. And of course, this kind of thinking is very in line with this kind of workshop, because in that kind of mindset, the customer is a co-creator of value, participates, and also the co-creation of many actors, you know, that are working to achieve something together. It works perfectly aligned with this social BPM and social information systems, where all these actors can also collaborate. So that's why I read this the workshop call, and I got interested, and that's why I decided to join this workshop.
Thank you very much, Egon. That's very interesting. Perhaps you know the Naples Forum on Service.
Yes. Yeah. I know, but I didn't participate, sadly, but I am aware of this.
Yeah. So there will be one next year. So just and we will be there. We hope so. Yeah.
With this kind of setting, or you will be
with papers.
A participant?
With papers.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So Puria, are you still here? So you're presenting his first paper. I saw you on the screen.
Yeah, I'm here actually.
Okay, I hope I pronounced your...
Yeah, it's correct. Yeah, it's exactly the correct name of me. Actually, I'm a doctoral candidate in Ghent University. Recently, I joined to this university. My background is combination of kind of more technical and also managerial, both sides. And I joined to Ghent to continue somehow my passion, because I had some kind of experience in industry. And after I found that, okay, most of the time for implementing the business process management and change management, usually, we have different challenges. And one of the most important factor in these challenges is the employers and employees, both sides. And usually for fulfilling and implementing correctly all of these procedures and processes in the new organization, or some of them that they want to improve their organization and change some of them, we have many challenges. So somehow we focus on some employee aspect and sides. And fortunately, we had a good chance to access to one data set that we'd work on it. And I focus on it for much more somehow data scientist side. And we try to extract some result from this data that is covered from 1990 to 2015. But we focus on much more recent waves, 2015 and 2010. But the result that we present in the paper is most focused on 2015, and we try to find some trend and three different aspects of the digital business process, also innovation somehow that it's involved with this too, and as a one glue between the process traditional one and somehow get to that stage that we help to organization to transfer from the traditional processes to much more digital oriented one. And yeah, but I don't know that I need, should I continue? Because as I found by schedule, I should start something about a quarter later. I'm not sure that is, I don't know if I can continue, so I can continue, it's okay for me. But if I need to stay and little bit wait, so I wait a quarter later.
So I would like to suggest to continue with the introductory round. If somebody else wants to give some thoughts about it, and I would like also to take a little bit about our other activities, and then you are, feel free to start shortly after.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. It's pleasure for me.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not that I explained a little bit shortly about actually my promoter. My promoter is Professor Amy van Looy, and she's my supervisor in my PhD at Ghent University. And also the title of the paper that we suggested and present in this conference is Classification of Digital-Oriented Work Practices. And okay, about the somehow small and short introduction, I can tell you, actually, as you know, nowadays, organizations tend to apply different aspects of digital technologies directly or more indirectly to their operations.
Okay, thank you, Puria. We are really excited to hear your paper later on. Are there other ones who want to talk a little bit about what they are doing and what they are interested in? It's also kind of, communication platform here to bring the people together who are working on social aspects. So is someone else who would like to speak about what he's doing? Simply show your picture, and I know that you want to present something. Willie? No, you don't want, okay. So, Joe, just before we let Puria start with his paper, I would like to give you some information what Salmin and I are doing else. So I start to share the screen again. So don't be afraid to say. So a little bit about the background. So we see our work as part of a larger, research approach, the change from Tayloristic information systems that are built with someone at the top who is having an idea, who is developing plans to implement it. And if you look at the traditional way software or information systems have been developed, that's the way how Windows was, for example, developed, or other Oracle database and so on. There's one person, and that's changing. And we think we are on a trend. There's a trend generally towards information systems that are developed by the contributions of a multitude of persons. And therefore, I already mentioned it a little bit. We are doing other things. There's this mini track on social information systems on the Higgs conference that are doing Selmin together with Rainer Alt from Leipzig University. And we are, yes, quite happy that now we have this fourth time this mini track, and we have still 3 papers that will be presented. Okay, there will be probably one also Higgs 22, and mid of June there will be the deadline. Okay, normally there is a whole presentation definition of social software. I assume some of one here already heard. We have developed this this definition, and I would like simply to point you to the most important points. So we think that social software, social informations, they are based on 4 paradigms that are weak ties, social production, egalitarianism, and mutual service provisioning. And what is and all these approaches, they are based in literature. For example, weak ties is a concept from sociology that has been developed by Granovetter in the 1970s. And weak ties are ties that are created by incident, so in organizations, and which help to solve problems. And often you find it in organizations if the people are waiting in the restaurant queue or in the smoker's corner. So in former times, it was important to smoke in certain professions. For example, as a business consultant, because all the important informations were exchanged in the smoker corner. So I stopped working as a consultant. Okay, then there is social production, a concept described in detail from Jochai Benkler that describes in detail that a deviation from this Tayloristic approach towards the concepts we find in open source software. We also have more and more egalitarianism that's found in concepts like wisdom of the crowds from Zurowecki, for example. And it means that decisions are less and less developed by experts, but instead by the combination of a multitude of decisions. Perhaps you have read the book of Brynjolfsson and McAfee about digitalization. And here you can see that more and more companies, for example, they replace expert decisions by experiments. And that's exactly that you don't rely really on experts who make the decisions. And finally, there is mutual service provisioning, and that's tightly connected to what Egon mentioned, that is this exchange of services as part of service dominant logic. And this concept sees that consumer is more and more integrated into the creation of products and its creation. Okay, so Yes, that's it about a short introduction. I think we should now start with the papers. Are there any questions, suggestions for the organization of today's workshop? Okay, so in this case, I would like to ask Puria to give his talk on a classification of digital-oriented work practices. So, okay.
So only I want to check that this sharing is correct and working. Yeah. Can you see the first page of my presentation?
Yes, Puria.
Okay, perfect. So actually, so I think that I started a little bit earlier. When you told me the feel free, I thought that I can start a little earlier. So sorry because of that misunderstanding. So actually, yeah, as I explained, my promoter and my co-author is Professor Amy Van Looy, and she's my supervisor also in my PhD position at Ghent University. And so we talk about that, what's the motivation to enter to this kind of field and how I involved with this project and also this thesis. By the way, so I continue with somehow explain more specific about the exactly this topic. As you know, and nowadays organization tend to apply different aspects of digital technologies directly or more indirectly to their operations. Digital innovation resulting from these new IT opportunities affect how organization work, and therefore this impact is also present on business process management as an important managerial approach. Resulting in digital process innovation projects to acquire more reliable business process for all stakeholders. So somehow it's very important for us that we can get one good relationship between the business side and business, especially process side, and innovation, that how we can apply these two together to improve more improvement and more digitalized somehow environment for the employees. And even this has a big effect on their kind of communication together and how they can be more convenient to communicate together and understand each other much more better. Actually, the second page, I talk about that the agenda for this talk that we is shown on this slide. And actually, in the second and third one, we get to the four construct that we it's our central actually elements of our work. The first one, the BPM field, the business process management field, to focus on how work is performed to improve business outcomes. And also the digital innovation, focus on business processes can become more innovative by adopting new IT. And the combination of these two, I mean that digital innovation and business process management lead to the third construct of process innovation. And in this study, we investigated whether process innovation can lead to higher job satisfaction for the employees or not. We take the perspective of employees, as most literature investigates the business outcomes of process innovation for organizations and their position in the market. And or in some studies take the perspective of the customers who are the key digital innovations. However, the employee perspective deserve more attention since employees' resistance can be an important hurdle for successfully realizing a digital innovation. Somehow we get to our problem statement. And this brings us to our problem statement. Digital innovation takes opportunity from the emerging technology and trigger organization to work differently in a digital economy. This means the work practices have to adapt to new technologies, and that also employees are affected by this kind of adaptation. So our research gap is that the employee side is often forgotten when talking about the digitalization of work practices. Because when we talk about the digital process innovation, and when the digital process innovation is realized, organizations focus too much on digitalization and more the technical side of these changes. But acceptance by employees is often forgotten. So we try to gain more insight into relationship between the digital-oriented work as an independent variable and work satisfaction by employees as our dependent variable. So we get to the research questions. The related research questions are twofold. We define RQ1 as the first research question that we uncover different type of digital work practices. And the second research question, we verify whether such a types also cause a different degree of job satisfaction in employee side or not. So actually, based on our research questions, we focus on 3 types of relationships. The first one, actually the first relationship is between digital people and work characteristics, which can typify different digital-oriented work types. And in the second one, we start by, actually before this, I can explain about this side, and after I go to the second one. So we start with focusing on elements that are critical in each organization and concentrate on the people characteristics, digital characteristics, and the process as a glue which connect these two together. So in the second, gonna actually trying to find some relationship between different aspects. We try to, in the second relationship, focus on the link between digital-oriented work and job satisfaction outcomes, as shown on the upper side part, right side of the slide. And afterward, as shown the bottom of the slide, we try to summarize our findings by investigating whether the difference in job satisfaction along the digital-oriented work types can be seen from the perspective of maturity levels. That we try to find that, okay, how we can categorize these kind of types based on the maturity models, and we categorize the organization even based on the maturities model, and we found that, okay, this organization is in which category of maturity, and how it can improve itself and get to the next level to be more convenient and comfortable for the employees, that they communicate most of their life in the organization environments and also in work environments. So Our empirical work is based on the secondary data collection that is based on the European data set that is gathered from 1990 to 2050. So we extend 90 independent variables. 4 of them consist of individual and organizational characteristics, and 15 variables were representation of kind of digital work. For our independent variable of work satisfaction, we selected 7 ordinal variables from 18 questionnaires, in the questionnaires, which were a combination of different aspects of kind of satisfaction of employees, and its combination combined via the factor analysis. Afterward, the 15 digital work variables were classified using the cluster analysis. To find any difference in work satisfaction among the obtaining clusters, we use ANOVA-based testing, and we try to find some differences between the result of these clusterings. The result of our clustering exercises is present on the slide. We use the K-means method for exploratory classification, which turned out to have the best fit with our data, resulting in the 5 clusters. Also, a discriminant analysis was used to confirm our work. And afterward, we try to gain more insight into the 5 clusters and their 15 digital oriented works variable based on the feature analysis. The feature analysis will be presented in the next slide. But important to know that especially 5 variables were characterizing the cluster differences, which we could further synthesize across the 3 variables group of people, IT, and process. These 3 aspects of somehow maybe main aspects of each organization that nowadays, especially because nowadays we are more into digitalization and transfer from the more traditional to digitalized organization. So we focus on people as the somehow main part, and IT as a new emerge kind of factor that maybe 40 years ago is started, and nowadays is much more mature and is more involved with the different part of the organization. And a process that is kind of, as we talk, is a kind of glue that's combine and give this chance to the organization to work together. So, but before I continue my talk, I construct my storyline via this polygon shape on the slide. It supports its upper parts related to the 3 variables group that I just mentioned about the people, process, and IT side, whereas the bottom references to employee satisfaction, output, and the additional of maturity dimension of our data. And so a summary of our feature analysis is presented via the color codes, with the green indicating similarities, red indicating differences, and orange indicating the between similarity and also completely differences, different. To extend the differentiate the characteristics per cluster, we compare the descriptive statistics, namely the percentages of each variable options through via the 5 clusters. Because especially focused on the differences in the percentage across the 15 variables related to the digital work, digital-oriented work. As a result, 5 variables turn out to have more diverse cluster percentages, namely the variable related to the IT used or working with the IT devices, employee involvement, decision autonomy, task repetitiveness, and task complexity. These five variables are shown as a row in the table. The first one referring to the ITUs, the second and the third one refer to some people characteristics, more particularly to empowerment aspects, and the final two refer to task type or process characteristics. We also investigated there are significant differences in job satisfaction. So the factor analysis of job satisfaction resulted in two factors, namely future job prospect perception and actual job perception. The graph shows some significant differences across the cluster of digital work, ranging from the lower to higher upper output values. Interestingly, the cluster gradation result from the performance outcomes were similar for both work satisfaction factors, but they contrast the gradation from the feature analysis. This means that lower work satisfaction was situated in the more advanced cluster of digital-oriented work, or in other words, the more digital work practices, the less satisfaction employee seems to be. This means the organization need to pay much more attention to the well-being of their employees. And all results, all findings for all clustering and ANOVA results were then summarized in the maturity-based model that indicates the observed gradation from the lower to higher digital work practices. We therefore translate the qualitative assessment of the 5 clusters from the maturity points of view via more diverse colors and states. Namely, initiate, for example, if we start from the bottom of this maturity hierarchy or ladder, we start with the initiate or red, developed or orange, optimized or yellow, advanced or green, and excellent being star that in the top. The green and the stars representing cluster A and B include higher value of digital, people, and process characteristics, and thus resemble the higher maturity levels to show an organization's ambitions of processing toward the most advanced situation related to the digital-oriented work practices. The cluster with the orange value, we name namely orange and yellow, or cluster C and E, show an organization's smooth ambition for digital work practices. And the cluster with the lower value on digital, people, and process characteristics, namely the red cluster or cluster D, represents the more traditional organization, which are less open to digitalizing and more open to digitalization or empowerment, and which process are less challenging. The translation to the maturity model point of view thus resulting in some interesting conflict as visualized on the slide via seesaw relationship. Since we observe a negative relationship between job satisfaction and an organization states in a digital work practice, or in other words, the higher the maturity level, the lower employees seems to be satisfied. This finding is thus based on the empirical data from the European employees and their actual work situations. So this this seesaw relationship doesn't present the ideal or desired situation, but it rather pinpoints to the conflict or an issue that need more attention in order to be properly handled. Therefore, our papers is conclude with some recommendation on how job satisfaction among employees can be improved along digital process innovation. For instance, organizations are encouraged to communicate more regularly about their digital strategies and how they relate the corporate mission. Also, incentive and reward can help to stimulate team spirit as well as co-creation. Employees also are encouraged to follow the required training, both job training and also innovation training, to keep up to date from the perspective of lifelong learning. These recommendations are based on our opinions. In future, we can organize an expert panel to find more approachable actions, actually. Other avenues may include developing a longitude study that I mentioned in the beginning, that we also tend to do this, and also somehow we are involved with this now. Meanwhile, we can encourage scholars and managers to pay more attention to the well-being of their employees when digitalizing work. So we have reached to the end of the talk. Feel free to ask a question, please, both after the presentation, but you can also reach out to us at later moments via our contact details on the slide. And thank you for your attention.
Yes, thank you very much, Buria, for this very interesting and engaged presentation. Are there questions? Please feel free to.
So I have a question. Maybe so this relation, maybe more like a comment. No, because you know this digitalization and the automatization in the work. You know, like the robots are coming in the workplace, and then you have this result that the people are less satisfied. There is kind of a relation of this high automatization and this dissatisfaction in the work, because sometimes the people say, you know, I'm not doing the work that I used to do. I'm being replaced by this automated process on robots. You know, what is your comment about this kind of issue?
Actually, even I somehow mentioned it in our recommendation that it's good that we ask to employ or prepare some training for the employees, that they little bit involved and somehow in a very rural talk, they dirty with the new automation, even the robot and the other things, and they can understand and somehow they rely to this, and after a while they start to be adopted with these new changes. But sometimes these new changes are so drastic and they can't sync themselves with the new changes. So somehow maybe they little bit hesitate and they felt that, okay, they can't control the things that they used to it. But it's kind of only maybe they can attend in some training, I don't know, courses or program that they involve and understand how this robot can work and what's the effect of this robot or what's the function of this robot on their work. So maybe they feel a little bit, they somehow calm down and they start to used to it and they start to involve with this gradually, and they don't feel that, okay, all things is out of their control. It's my idea, but it's good question that we can even mention it in our, because we try to enrich our research by some even expert panel, as I explained in my presentation. And we can gather all the, point of views, and we can enrich the factors that can involve in this even factors and even in this sample here. Yeah, I don't know. It's somehow
yes, thank you.
the answer, or I don't know, but I hope that I can answer it correctly.
Yes, thank you very much. Are there further questions?
Well, thank you very much for your talk. I think it's very interesting to focus on the humanistic aspects of digitalization. So one question I have is, so your instrument you used for like defining digital work practices, so which sources did you like use to come up with all the different dimensions? I think I saw the job characteristic model from Heckman and Oldham somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
It was on the second or third slide. So like, what is like different from your like dimensions of digital work practice?
You mean this one? Sorry.
Yeah, I think it was one slide before. So one earlier. Oh, yeah. I think somewhere I saw the saw you cite Heckman and Oldham, and they're like known for here.
Okay.
On the lower right, Heckman and Oldham, they're like known for their job characteristics model and how it relates to job satisfaction and so on. So where exactly like does your definition of digital work practices differ from what they like consider job characteristics?
Mm-hmm. So I can divide my answer to two parts.
Mm-hmm.
About the source that we mentioned here, somehow we flash back to the first concept of job satisfaction and the main factors that that he mentioned in his work. But I can tell you, because we access to the one data set that is prepared before we involve with this. It's belong to, it have been gathered from 2019 up to now. So we have some even restriction to exactly focus on some specific variables that we suppose in our mind. So we try to get to this approach that pick some variables that somehow cover that factor that you can find in job satisfaction. And also we try to combine this with that part that's somehow involved with the IT changes that we are involved and we focus and we face nowadays with this. So because of this, we focus on two sides, in the independent and dependent. In the independent side, we try to pick up some variables that we find some differences based on the percentage of each clusters that we find between this kind of big data set. And after, we try to use also some other variables that is exactly focused on job satisfaction in the independent side, in the dependent side. And between 18 variables that they focus, exactly one of them focus on directly ask the employees that, are you satisfied with your work or not? And somehow satisfaction is not something that we can defining, is sometimes is kind of feeling, is objective and subjective. And when you look at it, sometimes you should somehow hear to exactly their feeling about the work. And it's because we find this variable that is exactly point and direct, targeted to what's your feeling about the job and are you satisfied with your job or not. So also we involve this variable with in the dependent side, and we try to extract between, because we in 3 levels, three stage, we get to the two factors that they are much more effective on our variables with high significant meaning and these things based on the statistic, I mean the definition. We extract from 18 variables that one of them is exactly directed to the job satisfaction in the employees, to 7, and after between these 7 we get to the two factors that one of them focus on the future of the perspective of the future of the work, and one of them that's focus on exactly actual feeling of the employees of work. So it's combination of objective and subjective side of somehow our research and our focusing on job satisfaction. And so I don't know, I could explain correctly, or if you have another question, please feel free to ask.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, Puriel,
yes.
Are there further questions?
Sorry.
Are there other questions?
Sorry, I couldn't ask one question. Sorry, I couldn't.
No. It's a question to the audience. If there is anybody who has another question.
Okay. Because sorry, I couldn't hear you correctly. So yeah, I'm here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I have a short question. So you pointed to the fact that the satisfaction of the employees goes up, and at the same time the maturity goes down.
Yeah.
So could that be caused by the structure of the maturity models, that they are still, I would say it a little bit provocative, they are organized in a Tayloristic way, the old thinking that they identify organizational maturity with Taylorism, and that we now have to change thinking, that nowadays employees do expect something else from an organization, not Taylorism, but self-organization, social production, and so egalitarian decisions, for example.
Actually, exactly, we get to this point and we think about that, okay, how we can analyze this result. And I focus on some other kind of organizational theories. And I found different ones. For example, I work on TOM, I work on organizational and institutional theories and many other ones. And I found that, okay, some of these theories cover from the bottom to a higher level of these maturities, but some of them are much more concentrate on higher level, similar design thinking, for example. It is focused on more innovative and innovation of employees, and it's much more focused on actually employees, and somehow they call it as they bring the employees to the organization as a one element that we can even ask them to improve our products, because somehow they are much more involved with the clients, and they know what they want, and they hints and they brainstorming that you can form in your organization can help to improve the level of digitalization in your organization. So I can tell you, maybe we also, maybe, I don't know, it's kind of things that this comes to my mind only, not based on some maybe literature review or these things, but I think that maybe we are also in one kind of transition time that also we need to somehow move and transit from the more traditional aspect of institutional theory to much more innovative one that help to employee involve with products and with the services that the organization want to give to the clients. And they can give us very, very useful hints to improve our products and our services. So it's two approaches. You can focus on employee as the main factor of your factory and main factor of your organization, or you can continue with a more structured organization that, okay, employee is one element of this organization and should be tailored by organization and only follow the frame that organization defined for it. So also we are in a one kind of mid or hybrid model that you give in the frame of the structure organization, you give them somehow some freedom to be much more innovative and somehow apply their idea, or at least share their idea with the manager. And in this part is much more employee involvement with the organization. But I can tell you, I look at this as a one I like much more hybrid one, because I think that nowadays we are much more on hybrid side, that the organization, they are not totally digitalized or form as a one digital organization, but also we tend to, and we have this ambition to get to the much more digitalized. So we need to prepare also for much more design thinking approach, but also we shouldn't forget that it's one kind of frame and it's one kind of structure that it should follow also the rule of the organization. I'm that I can answer it in a bit.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, welcome.
Okay, any further questions? So let me again thank you, Puria, for this very interesting and engaged talk. Now I would like to ask whether there is a presenter for the second paper, competency cataloging and localization to support organizational agility in BPM. Anyone? Oh, that's a pity. So because we have to change a little bit. So therefore, I would like to ask Johannes to give his talk about enterprise systems capabilities to organizational change in the BPM life cycle.
So, thank you. I hope you see my slides.
Yes, please.
Okay, then I already introduced myself. I'm Johannes Tenschert, postdoc at Friedrich-Alexander University, Erlangen-Nürnberg, at the chair of Digital Industrial Service Systems. Willi Tang and Martin Matzner are my co-authors and all also here in this Zoom call. And I'm very happy to present to you enterprise system capabilities for organizational change in the BPM lifecycle, where we look into which capabilities do you need to support long-term support of your processes within the same enterprise system. So what are we going to do today? First of all, I'll motivate the paper and introduce our methods. Then I'll outline the enterprise capabilities, enterprise system capabilities we derived for the 6 phases in the BPM lifecycle, which we apply in this matter. And finally, we discuss the findings and conclude the presentation. So today, the increasingly complex and dynamic business world demands that organizations can adapt to changing business environments, and changes in requirements and processes drive organizational change and systems change. Change can be expected continuously, so system agility is critical for organizational agility, and both drivers entail the changes of the information systems and ERP systems involved and in use are to be performed. As soon as those changes are put into practice, they entail changes in requirements and processes and systems agility as well. So this is a cycle, but for now we look only at the trigger of large system changes, and in this case, this diagram is correct. So A change to a new system is usually performed as a large-scale implementation project, and here we show the enterprise systems lifecycle many researchers apply in this regard. In the first phases, project chartering and the project, an organization invests into an enterprise system to address the current problems and constraints and to overcome existing disadvantages against competitors. Afterwards, the organization will adapt and refine selected processes and activities, and in the shakedown phase, it deploys the enterprise system into production use. In the onward and upward phase, the organization will exploit the system with iterations of configuration and implementation. And in the shakedown phase, organizations typically experience a period where productivity is depressed, where the system should get to normal operations, and where new enterprise systems may fail. Avoiding these high-risk phases is beneficial both to vendors and users. As you know, I'm also at a company that is a vendor, so this is important for me as well. And vendors want to retain their customers as long as possible and should expect continuous and incremental change. Users don't want to frequently risk the organization as the requirements no longer match their processes. Since those implementations are very costly, they can have severe impact if they go haywire. So the basic idea of what we are looking into is how can we extend this onwards and upwards upwards phase to new changes in requirements and processes you have after deployment. Our methods we apply are, we raised the two questions, which capabilities does an enterprise system need to facilitate organization change within the same system, and which concrete features of a software system can enable these requirements. For both questions, we take the vendor perspective, but in this case also the user of an evolutionary information system. As all questions revolve around the processes and process change in an organization, we apply the BPM lifecycle, and we evaluate these two questions for each of the 6 phases. The resulting lists are non-exhaustive and exemplary, so enterprise systems vendors may set a different focus on what types of capabilities and features they expect for their user base and what they want to implement. We apply the model and basic definitions you can find in the book Fundamentals of Business Process Management from Dumas et al. For each of the 6 phases, we outline first the goal and the outcomes and derive the necessary enterprise system capabilities and concrete features you need for that. Since we are time boxed here, I go into the first phase, process identification, in more detail as an example of how we apply it, but I only outline the rest. The slides and the paper contain all entries, and feel free to ask me more details on the later phases as well. So the goal of process identification first is business problem is posed, processes relevant to the problem being addressed are identified, delimited, and interrelated. And therefore, the outcomes you expect are a collection of processes and links and a collection of performance measures. For that, organizational transparency facilitates assessing the source of processes, stakeholders, your strategy, external requirements, and the infrastructure you have. For the other 3 capabilities, Van de Ven and Poole introduced a taxonomy on process theories of organization development based on mode and unit of change. Units of change distinguish one or multiple organizations. Mode of change distinguishes whether change is prescribed, so from predetermined actions from external sources, or constructive, which is harder to detect by actual performance of actions, dissatisfaction and conflicts, or systems of change, for example, if you detect workarounds. This entails needs for capabilities in regard for internal and external communication, and analysis methods for change detection, for example, process mining. So on the left side, we again have those 4 capabilities, now with the stakeholders involved and example features we derived. The corresponding features are exemplary and non-exhaustive, so we may not have thought of features that would be better than what we have here, but that no one else knows already or that we didn't gather in our literature review. For organizational transparency, role management in systems or org charts, for example, in quality management handbooks are very helpful. System may contain product or service catalogs. Flexible data management capabilities support users in documenting important aspects of their work, and document management within a system allows to store your, for example, enterprise architecture information directly where you need it and where you perform it. Forums, mailing lists, reference models facilitate internal feedback and importing external knowledge. And for internal feedback, annotations on process artifacts allow storing it. Change detection can be performed via, for example, process mining, and any data analysis methods you want to apply here depends on the data being available. So while we have a system of record as a feature here, it more or less is a requirement on the user, but the system needs to provide features that facilitate that it is actually being used as a system of record, for example, in regard to flexibility or avoiding the need for workarounds. So if your system can perform your processes as you want it, then you will have this data in your logs and in your data entries. For process discovery, the goal is that the current state of each of the relevant processes is documented, typically in the form of one or several as-is process models, and therefore you have a collection of as-is process models and the intermediate documentation, for example, from interviews or from models in between. The capabilities you need are therefore less organization, but instance transparency for evidence-based discovery, which is required for applying, for example, process mining capabilities. Communication, knowledge management, and modeling capabilities support capturing and connecting process information during the time when it's applied and when you document what you have during your interviews or reviews of internal documentation. So we also have many features derived from that. The main differences to the previous features are a larger focus on the enterprise system being a system of record, more event log extraction, especially in regard to instance transparency, and social software characteristics in communication, knowledge management, and modeling, as this phase more or less is project management in practice, and there you need those features. In process analysis, the goal is to find issues associated with the as-is process, document them, and whenever possible, quantify them using performance measures. You have more outcomes here. You, first of all, the problems or direct results you find, unnecessary steps, sources of waste or process issues, and the KPIs you want to track over a longer time, or the snapshots you have now in this phase. The capabilities you need for those outcomes are knowledge management to document all those outcomes, and instance transparency, most importantly for KPIs. Knowledge management features primarily revolve around documenting the results, and instance transparency is facilitated by the enterprise system being a system of record, as we already heard, and dashboards for quick analysis for the KPIs you identified. In process redesign, the goal is to identify changes to the process that would help to address the issues identified in the previous phases and allow the organization to meet its performance objectives. The outcome is a collection of to-be process models you derive from that, and the capabilities you need are communication, knowledge management again, and collaboration. As process redesigns depends on working together to derive the to-be processes as an outcome. Typical features here are mostly in the realm of social software and project management. You already saw all of these features in the previous phases, and it's more or less groupware, wikis, and so on. In the process implementation phase, we move from project management to deployment, and the goal is to find changes required to move from the as-is process to the to-be process and prepare them to be performed. Process implementation covers two aspects: organization change management and automation. The expected outcome are executable process models, whether they are Word document or actionable process model to be automatically executed isn't that important here. But the capabilities you have are in the realm of communication, knowledge management, and support structures, later ones, most importantly for preparing deployment. Support structures are organizational mechanisms that help employees overcome challenges they encounter when deploying adopting new software or new workflows. Next to help desk, you may know enterprise systems can influence the efficiency of support structures and how employees can help each other. For example, if there's a chat, if there's some sort of forum or some other form that employees can help each other. In process monitoring, relevant data is collected and analyzed to determine how well the process is performing with respect to its performance measures and performance objectives. Bottlenecks, recurrent errors, or deviations with respect to the intended behavior are identified and corrective actions are undertaken. The outcomes here are the concrete KPIs you find continuously, that you identified earlier, the bottlenecks, recurrent errors, and deviations you find in practice from instances. Therefore, you need lots of instance transparency again to derive these outcomes, and typical capability is process mining here as well. So this requires also that the enterprise system is a system of record and lots of integration in the event log extraction, especially if the enterprise system is scattered across 2 or 3 information systems that revolve around the same processes. So we discussed the paper in regard to capabilities needed by enterprise systems to ease process and organizational change, our findings, and the applicability of results. We saw that our results are generally consistent with the socio-technical perspective in information systems, and also the technical and social components need to jointly be optimized. We want to extend the life cycle of an enterprise system by facilitating capabilities to change within the system, so to prolong the onwards and upwards phase as long as possible. Social software and social software characteristics support feedback during process implementation and exchange of advice for the new workflows or features to be deployed, and also, of course, communication during this project management for the single phases. The exploitation of the system during onward and upward phase means that you reconfigure and re-implement new features or different process characteristics cyclically, so long until it's no longer possible to work within this enterprise system when your requirements changed drastically. The key findings are that I mentioned system of record many times. It's required in many phases. In this regard, we say artifacts need to be accessible, available, and related data is connected. But of course, a system of record is not only useful during the BPM lifecycle and to look at the processes, but for the concrete process instances as well. Knowledge management features support project and knowledge management activities during the change. And all those features are already common in adaptive case management settings, but not in the typical BPM settings today. What we saw is that social aspects are severely underrepresented in practice, and also, in my view, at least in my software, that I need a view of those features as well to support that. For the applicability, the list we derived is not only useful for vendors, which would be a rather small list, but also for organizations searching for an enterprise system that already know that their requirements may change and that they need an evolutionary information system over time. We want to prevent unnecessary high risk and cost intensive shakedown phases as long as possible. It's better if you only have those shakedown phases as a startup, and as soon as you're large, but those intermediate phases, it's better you don't to have those shakedown phases here. Enterprise system vendors with cloud solutions can tailor their system more to low-code configuration instead of manual programming and consulting to facilitate that. And to support, for support structures, you facilitate them by adopting best practices across organizational boundaries for example, with forums of all your customers, or with some sort of chat or sharing of best practices for cross-organizational learning. So our conclusion is in this paper, we evaluated all the 6 phases of the BPM lifecycle in regard to the capabilities an enterprise system needs and the features implementing these capabilities for long-term support of your processes within the same system. This paper addresses how vendors can facilitate organizational change within the same enterprise system, where we expect changes in support structures, project management, processes, and deployment, or shorter your whole company over time. And we want to have a sustainable usage of the system, even if those requirements change. We want to reduce the risk-intensive enterprise systems implementation as long and as hard as possible, and still we have open questions for that. We looked into those 6 phases for one enterprise system, but still in practice, this enterprise system may consist of several BPM and information systems involved that are connected. So those features or capabilities you need for connecting them, for providing a system of record, they may still be an open question we want to investigate in the future. And also we have a list here, but we haven't prioritized them. For that, we want to have more empirical evaluation and interviews with stakeholders to get this information. So thank you for your attention. Do you have any questions?
Yes, thank you very much, Johannes, for this very detailed and very engaged talk. Yes, to the audience, is there one or more question?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
Yes, my name is Mahendra. Thank you for the presentation. But I would just like to confirm, I don't know if I listened correctly, is this still in the conceptual development or have you actually implemented in a real case or something?
We derived this from a literature review as a first step to most importantly to get feedback from you of whether we are on a good way for that, and we haven't implemented those features yet in practice, but my motivation actually was I as a vendor wanted to see what capabilities do I need to get my customers for the long run, and that's the steps we already took to get this information.
Okay, so the use cases that you're thinking about when you develop this is for a company or any organizations that would like to implement an enterprise system, but you also want them to think in terms of the BPM life cycle. Is that correct? Or
not completely? We took the vendor side. So of course, for example, if you're SAP or Camunda, what types of capabilities do I need to offer in my systems that my customers can have organizational change and still stay as a customer? That was the basic idea, but of course for the customer side it's the same. If I know my requirements will change in 2 or 3 years, I don't want another system at that time because now it's costly enough. So we want to have a set of features that you can look into what do you need to consider. Those features might be different of different vendors, but what capabilities do I need to support so I can stay within the system? That was the idea from both sides then. But we investigated from the vendor side.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Are there further questions?
I have a question. I'm wondering if you've considered the context of business process within the rest of, like the enterprise architecture. So you've touched on it by talking about organizational change management, but what about actually expressing that in a sort of a structured data kind of way and with appropriate levels of abstraction?
Actually, we didn't support the organizational change itself, but we looked into what do you need to have this sort of system. So this change process will also vary between different organizations drastically, but which type of capabilities do you need to create your change processes? This was the question. Did I answer it, or can you go in more into detail?
Well, for instance, if you've got in an enterprise system, if you've got organization structure, have you got the ability to actually relate that to your processes? And have you got the ability to relate the information requirements to the processes and actually trace those relationships across different processes and different modules of the enterprise system, that kind of thing?
We saw that as our first and most important capability during process identification. So this organizational transparency is what you mean. We don't have it as a feature, but now that I have it in the paper, I will certainly write it myself, and I hope that other vendors will do so as well. Because I think it's important, and most quality management systems require that you have some sort of organizational transparency in a digital way that you can exploit during such phases, but also during audits.
Great. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Another question?
Question in the chat, Johannes.
Was?
In the chat.
Ich sehe hier keinen. Hat jemand was geschrieben? Sorry, did someone write it in the chat? Because yes, I don't see it in the presenter's view.
Do you mind if I ask another question?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I might miss your explanation, but how did you actually come up with the features and the capabilities?
Yes, we looked into this book of Dumas et al. And looked into literature for each phase, and from those problems and ways to perform these phases, we derived which capabilities do you need. So these are based on a literature review. But that's why we want to do it more empirically in the future as well, to get what's actually used and not only what's written.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there other questions from the audience? Okay, then thank you again, Johannes, for this very exciting talk. Yes, so then we proceed to the next presentation, and I would like to ask Egon Lüftenegger to give his talk about Sentipromo, sentiments analysis enabled social business process model tool.
Yes. Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, Egon?
Yes. Welcome to this presentation about Sentipromo, a sentiment analysis enabled social business process modeling tool. My name is Egon Lüftenegger, and we did this work with my colleague Silver Softich, and we are representing the Campus 02, University of Applied Science, located in Graz, Austria. Next. Yes. The table of contents. First, we will speak about Sentipromo in context, what is about the relationship with the BPM lifecycle and the social information systems. Then I will cover the Sentipromo conceptual architecture specification. Afterwards, I will show the software tool that is the result from this architecture. And then we discuss a little bit the results and the next steps. Let's talk about the Sentipromo in context. So what is about the social business process management? The social business process management aims to involve all the relevant stakeholders in the VPM lifecycle, and also aims to add social features into these traditional VPM tools. On the other hand, the social information system highly relies on this concept of egalitarianism to give all the participants the right to contribute to this business process. Furthermore, social information system is used in business process to provide additional functionality to improve this integration for these stakeholders. And we aim to support the egalitarianism in a business process modeling tool. So for this reason, we identify this, the following stakeholders from the paper sheet number 5 below in this presentation, and will be also in the paper. So these stakeholders are identified from another paper, are the customer, process designer, process owner, activity performer, and superior decision maker. So with this information in mind, we established this relationship in the VPM lifecycle. So what was the idea is that you have an as-is process, then the process analysis is performed, and then this insight on weaknesses and their impact are used for the 2V process. So what is the idea? We support the egalitarianism by capturing the opinion from different stakeholders regarding a task in a given process to aim to capture this wisdom of the crowd. And therefore, we try to capture this wisdom of the crowd in the comments from the task in the process within this VPM life cycle regarding this process improvement. So from this VPM life cycle, we identify the following requirement. So first, we import the as-is process.
Egon, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Did you change the slide? Because I'm seeing the first one. I'm still seeing the first slide.
Yes, I'm changing the slides. Oh, yes. There's an issue there. Thank you very much.
Okay,
I didn't.
no problem.
I'm continuing, and I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, so I need to. Yeah, I'm changing the slide. Thank you for the feedback. Maybe that's why I got this. I will stop the sharing and then I will try again. Okay, because stop. In the worst case, I will do it like this, you know. So then I will be 100% sure that works. So yeah, I'll talk about the agenda and then the Sentipromo in context. That's more like audio, so I will not repeat that. But then
Thank you.
can. Thank you very much. Then we can see how Sentipromo fits in the business process in the VPM life cycle, and like the previous presentation is based on this famous book from Dumas et al. And as you can see here, we highlight the scope of Sentipromo. You know, the first we import the process as is, then we analyze the business process, and then we get these insights of these weaknesses and their impact, and then we use this for the process redesign for this 2B model. So that's the idea of the Sentipromo in context. And now we define this requirement. Yes, first we import this as is process model into the tool. Then the stakeholders insert the personal opinion in this process task. And third, the Sentipromo calculates the opinion sentiment for each task and an overall score. Finally, the analyst used this information for producing a 2D process. So it's more to help the business analyst with this capture comments to improve this process. That's the main idea. So then we define this 3-layer architecture with the user interface layer, a models layer, and a database layer. And we define the following user interface. We have this business process modeler UI, the business process repository UI, that is used to, the business process modeler UI is used to look and to redesign the business process. The business process repository UI is used to store the collection of business processes and then we have the task level comments capture UI that the name is set is to capture this comment from the wisdom of the crowd. And then we have this task level comment feedback UI that shows the sentiment that is calculated for each comment. And then we have the overall sentiment score UI that shows the overall score of the business process. So then we define the models layer here. We have the process modeler model that this was developed more with this Kamuda software in this available to integrate. We have this business process repository model that for storing this repository, this get the functionality, you know, to store, retrieve this business process, the task comments model, and the sentiment analysis model. That is more the most important one, because this model is the one who calculate the sentiment for each comment. And finally, we have where stored the business process repository database and the task comment repository database. So this is more the 3-layer architecture we define with this tool. And we have this Sentipromo software tool that is available on this website. You can download this Sentipromo. It's a Windows application, and it requires this following the .NET framework and then .NET Core 3.1 or superior, because I installed this tool with the latest version and works as well. So maybe if I can switch, I will stop sharing. I will share screen. Here. So here we have the tool. This is the software tool. So here you can import the tool in business process into the repository. So this is, and then here is display. And then you have this, the process with the different tasks. So, and then maybe it's that live demo, so, you know, of the risk that, you know, work or doesn't work. Huh? So here we can select the different stakeholders that we identify in the paper. For example, you know, you have a customer, you know, that says they enter into the terminal and say, for example, the waiting time is too long. So we save this. Oh, hopefully works, you know, because, you know, there's a, so let's pray. Yeah. Yeah, this is the, I'm not so much a Windows guy, so as a user. So yeah, that's the risk. Theoretically, we should, you know, it's like a academic software, you know, it should work, but, you know, I will show you the results on the paper because I will switch to the other view. This is the virus security alerts. You know, sadly, this Windows thing now that is a virus. So I will stop. Oh, okay, continue. Save. Ah, yeah, good. So here we have the comment, the waiting time is too long, and then calculates a sentiment score that is negative. So that means that is something that the commenter said that, you know, was something that they didn't like about this task, and then is calculated in a negative. So this is highlighted then as a red comment. So something about negative of the process. So this information can be used later on for redesigning the business process, and then the business analyst can say, yes, the customers are saying this, the waiting time is too long, and then with this, the wisdom of the crowd, we can improve this business process. So that's the main idea. So let's back to the presentation. If I can find it here. Yes, perfect. Yeah. So that was the overall. You can see this is more the user interface with more information there, because the other one was a new installation. And then you can see that the comments that are not positive about this task are in red, and the satisfaction of the users that find that the task is well performed and they bring good feedback, then is calculate as a positive value with the sentiment, and then shows a green value. So in this paper, we focus more, instead of talking about the whole tool, about this sentiment analysis part, and we here is the same, that, for example, in this checking, when we need to somebody comments, we need more self-service counter, because sometimes gets to crowd. Then also, you know, other instance that is calculated with a negative score. Yeah, and as long we can see here with the different stakeholders, there are the negatives comments are highlighted in red, and these positive comments are highlighted in green. So that's it. And when we use the from algorithm that is well known, that works in these scenarios, this is the group instance cost function algorithm that we train with thousands of real comments from the reviews from from Amazon, movie reviews from IMDb, Yelp, and tweets from Twitter, of course. And these datasets are trained for use the algorithm. So these datasets are available in the web page and also in these links in the paper. And of course, what are the discussion and the next steps? As a result of our experimental application, as you see, is a Windows software. So they identify the sentiment of the comments with positive or negative with an accuracy of 80%. And the explanation of this thing is because we train with this limited number of comments from existing data sets. So a much way to improve this, the way the sentiment works is to capture, many more comments from this kind of scenarios, right? And then this will improve this accuracy from this number, and this could be applied with the with a web application for capturing these stakeholders in a very massive scale, and then going to be a really social business process management tool, because they have more scope, more social features, and so on. And we hopefully we can do this tool for the next version of Sentipromo with the airline company that is changing this business process from the check-in. So that is our presentation. So these are from the video. And these are the Sentipromo sentiment analysis enabled social business process model tool, and myself, Ego Liftenegger, and my colleagues, Selver Softic, we are the Sentipromo's team. So thank you for your attention. And if you got all the slides, I'm very happy.
Yes, thank you very much, Egon, for this very, constructive presentation. I'm happy that, after some time, I really saw a tool that has been implemented in this area. Are there questions?
I would have a question.
Yes, please, Johannes.
I saw that you have your feedback in the modeling tool. Did you also consider integrating directly into BPM systems for instance level support, which you have in your examples?
Will be great, but we focus more in a smaller scale here, more like autonomous, as a tool. And then we can, of course, grow into a more like a system, with a workflow engine and so on. But so we started small, and then we tried to implement with this proof of concept, like it works, doesn't work, and then test it. And of course, we can grow in this kind of workflow systems and implement that in this tool. But maybe as a future work is kind of a very good idea.
Actually, what I propose is just getting this feedback into your system, so you don't need to implement your own BPM system for that, but only for web services, for example.
A website, sorry?
Web services, for example, where your external tools just tie their user feedback in there, because I guess this would be rather useful for your instance level support as well.
Right. We could integrate that from the outside. That is a good direction to go. I will take in notes and study if we can go to this solution.
Yeah, thanks.
But but we are more in the proof of concept stage, so that's why it's more or less a more user interface and so on.
Thank you.
Okay, Other questions? Okay, so I'm interested in this work or research quite well. Do you have the possibility to integrate other algorithms or machine learning approaches for do sentiment analysis?
Yeah, we could use other algorithms to test to calculate the sentiment and maybe compare them and see what else brings better results. For instance, right? But the decision was made most of the existing work, you know, and we identified this algorithm as successful in reviewing these comments, the way, and then we choose this algorithm because it was very specifically conceived for this kind of settings. But of course, we can use other kind of algorithms to calculate the sentiment.
I tell this because at the moment, the area of natural language processing is making huge progress based on algorithms like BERT and all these others, all BERT and so on. And so to participate or to profit from this development, it would be fine.
That's a good idea, to integrate other algorithms into, not that calculates this kind of sentiment of comments, but maybe for other functionalities also, right? Mm-hmm. And to profit from this kind of algorithms into and implement it into this tool. That's this prop is also I think there is a workshop in this or not in this conference also. Somebody will talk about the algorithms for data analysis in business process. So I'm also interested in to attend to this workshop and to see what kind of algorithms are or that are applicable to this in this context.
Okay.
I hope.
Yeah. The question. Thank you very much. Okay, so there's a message from Penny. Could you please, Penny, could you say some words about your tool?
Sure. We use IBM BlueWorks Live. So that has the ability to capture against the diagram level or at any activity or event, problems and opportunities, and rate them with severity and frequency. It also has the ability to capture free text comments as well. So it would be great to be able to actually apply your algorithm just to existing tools and the content, that type of content in the tools. As another person mentioned a little while ago, like maybe as a service.
Right, we could expand this like as a service, right? For integration, this kind of processing into the other tools. That's another good idea to grow and to transform the desktop into a more like a service, right? You know,
yeah,
like
yeah.
Promo as a service. That's a good title for other paper, right? so
perhaps next.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So that's a good idea. Thank you very much.
Okay. Other questions? Then thank you again, Egon, for this interesting presentation. Now we are at the end of the BPMS2 workshop. And yes, Selmin and I would thank you, the presenters, the authors, and the program committee Mitglieds, as well as the organizers who made BPMS2 2020 possible. And yes, because we intend to submit another workshop proposal. So we would like to know about themes or developments you would like to see in the next year's proposal for BPMS2. So please feel free to make suggestions.
So maybe something related with the service domain logic could be also be something like that, like, you know, the service area also, and the role with the social information systems. That also is kind of interesting area of research.
Yes, thank you. Some other ideas or suggestions?
I have one.
Yes,
please. Let's hope that next year we will be face to face.
Yeah.
And then I would suggest that maybe you could try some, since it's a social software a workshop, maybe we could do some dynamics, like group dynamics among the participants. Try to, maybe people could read the papers in advance, and then someone could comment the paper of the other author before his presentation, something like this, you know. I mean, maybe try to make this workshop like a real workshop where people work together. I think it would be nice to see this in this, particularly in this workshop, because it's about collaboration. Yeah, it's because of social interaction. So I think maybe we could change the format of the workshops in general, and especially this one. What do you think?
Yes, that's a very good idea. So we are all in a phase of learning how to adapt. And I have to say, I never would have assumed that this break in the way we organize workshops would take so long, but let's hope for the best that next year we have, we get back our old way of workshop organizing. Yes. Yes. Any further suggestions and ideas? Comments, criticism? So Selmin and I, we would like to live also our ideas of social production. So everybody is, not only allowed, but expected to contribute.
I don't know if this aligns with your like research direction, but how software can better support knowledge intensive processes, because that's where you need the social collaboration happening, as opposed to the routine transactional stuff which you just automate. I don't know if that aligns. I'm sorry, this is the first one of these I've ever attended, so I'm not sure if that aligns with your direction or not.
Yes, there is a connection to knowledge management, and interestingly, there is a paper from Liana Rasmarita and Katrin Kirchner from Denmark and me on this year's Higgs, which goes in this direction. But thank you very much. So we will further develop this direction.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Penny. Johannes, wanted you to say something?
My suggestion would also go in a similar direction. During the pandemic, we also saw that the use of business process management systems changed. And now those social characteristics may integrate both features that are for physical use at your working site, but also for working at the home office. And I guess this year there's lots of expected innovation in this regard, which might be looked into next year as well. What happened? And I'm hoping that at least this agility that we have now will stay after the pandemic as well.
Yes, yes. I also made the observation that a lot has changed, and things here. You are quite right that there is a need for new research on it. Okay. So, further suggestions?
So no. So more like a question. So what kind of venues are like similar like to these? You know, to further research in this direction of your kind of advice. You know, to what kind of venues are available. You know, to.
Okay, in this case, I first would like to suggest a mini track on social information systems on Higgs. So there will be probably another Higgs mini track on social information system 2022. And the deadline will be in June approximately. It will depend on the organizers. And yes, there will be probably the social, the Naples Forum on Service, which goes into the direction of service dominant logic. But we will see what will happen, whether they take the normal procedure or virtualize it here.
Thank you.
Okay. Further comments, ideas? Okay. In this case, I would like to thank you all again. Selmin and I will be happy to take your ideas and comments and further develop our workshop. Of course, we will submit a proposal for BPM 2021. And I hope, you stay safe until then. And thank you very much again, and hope to see you again on BPMS2 2021. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.